On the count of 3, name your favorite dinosaur. Don't think about it, just name it. 1, 2, 3. Velociraptor. Favorite non-sports podcast to masturbate to?
NPR News Now.
If you could sleep with one male podcaster, who would it be?
Mark Maron. What?
Did we just become best friends?
Yup.
Do you want to do karate in the basement?
Yup.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
You can't handle the truth. King Kong ain't got shit on me. I am the third revelation.
I am so much crazier than you.
I am the one who knocks.
Go ahead. Make my day.
That's thing, big boy, huh? That's Brock. Fucking
Everybody on? Good. Great. Grand. Wonderful.
Welcome to Facing Off. This is a podcast where we take two movies that we find to be similar and we compare, contrast, and rate them. I am Gabe.
I am Nick.
And who's this gentleman behind you?
Hello, Miss Lady.
What's up, Aron? This is, we're introducing Aron Harrington to the podcasting universe. So,
Hey, guys.
How you doing, man?
Welcome
I'm
to the
doing
universe.
great. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself,
Ooh,
Aron
about
Harrington?
myself. I have one of the most interesting jobs in the world that I will not bore you all with. It's super cool. Has to do with finances. Mm-hmm. And
not super
just
cool.
know you guys for a long time. Best friends since
Fascinating.
college.
Yeah,
Wow.
he is our best buddy. We love Aron.
Besties.
We're so happy to have him on this podcast.
It's 1A.
Single Aron. Get it right.
That's true. It is one Aron. I mean, 1A. Ron.
It is. It's also 1 Aaron.
It's one Aron. It's 1A Ron.
So now there are 3 of us.
Nick, how are you doing?
I'm good. You mean, yeah, it's just funny that you asked me that, but we'd recorded another podcast earlier today, so it's like,
Yeah,
I'm
you
the
could-
same as I was before.
Yeah, okay. Well, good to know that you're doing well, Nick. It is great.
It's a little behind the scenes for you.
You know what? We don't need to do a disclaimer because it's the fucking Catalina Wine Mixer. And,
Love that. Catalina Wine Mixer.
Exactly. And you don't need to be an expert to talk about these movies, and this is obviously our opinion, but we're going to spoil them if
I
you
guess.
can. I don't really necessarily think that you need to watch Holmes and Watson before this to enjoy this episode.
Certainly not.
But like if you want to, I guess go ahead and do it.
And if you haven't seen Step Brothers by now, you are missing out and you are not part of my life.
That is true. Hey, Nick,
You have been disowned
That's so true.
by Aaron.
Aaron would not love you if you haven't seen that movie. He
If
expresses
you
that.
are a member of the Harrington clan and you have not seen Step Brothers,
Are you
count
even?
Aaron out.
Yeah. Before we get into the synopsis, just want to give a few shout outs. We love the reviews that we've been getting. Aaron,
Yeah.
you are one of them. Big shout out to our boy, Garen Block.
Garen.
He is such a cutie. Sends me the nicest messages. He was like really mad at Kane Holloway's take on Toontown because he loves Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
That's such a funny thing to be mad at.
Yeah, it was
Oh, I
great.
miss you, Garen. You
Yeah.
big dad.
Garen,
you.
I also see you on Xbox Live all the time, and I'm
Ooh.
scared to invite you to a party. Just want
Is
to let
he
you know
that
that.
good?
No,
Oh.
no. Sorry.
Well, Garen, we're not
You're just
scared of you.
intimidated by
just
his
just
aura?
by you,
His
Yeah.
essence.
Daddy.
Well, we are not intimidated by you, Garen. As a podcast, we love you. As
Yes.
friends, we also love you. And then another shout out to Ryan Martin, my friend Marty. You sent me some nice comments about this podcast, and I only like people who give me compliments. So thank you.
Even though you ask everyone to send you hate mail at the
yeah.
end of every one
well,
of these podcasts.
I still haven't gotten hate mail on our email.
We
and
want
then
hate
a
mail.
couple other people. Thank you, Billy. Thank you,
Billy Zane?
Yeah.
Billy's
Daniel Wongren, Daniel Hillman. Yeah, Billy Zane.
one and only.
You know what? While we're at it, let's just get into the podcast. Nick, throw us a
boy.
synopsis of Step Brothers.
I gotta say,
versus
this is my
Holmes and
toughest synopsis writing yet.
Ooh, I'm excited.
But this evening, Gabe, Aaron, and I will compare two Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly movies.
Watson. Boats and Hoes.
Boats and Hose is a movie about... No, okay. Man, Holmes and Watson should have been called Boats and Hose. Holmes and Watson and Step Brothers are the two movies that we're going to talk about tonight. Their common thread is Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, obviously, but Holmes and Watson is a movie in which Will Ferrell and John Reilly play Holmes and Watson. Holmes and Watson is a story in which Watson and Holmes make very bad jokes in Holmes and Watson, but Holmes and Watson is a movie in which Holmes and Watson solve a mystery. It's not a great movie. Step Brothers is a movie in which Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly play Brennan and Dale, two man babies whose homes are joined by the marriage of their parents. The two 40-year-olds become best friends, eventually falling out of favor with their parents and growing up a little bit, and then they join forces to save the best damn wine mixer ever to help Catalina Island sell hats and shirts and things.
And helicopters.
Seriously. What?
Helicopters.
Yeah.
And helicopters.
It's important.
Hats and shirts and helicopters.
They're
It's
synonymous
the
with
fucking
each
Catalina
other.
Wine Mixer. But seriously, this movie puts Catalina back on the map, baby.
Baby. Yeah, so we're actually, we're comparing them because these are two Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly joints.
Jams.
Yeah, we really
Collabs.
wanted to do. Aaron loves Will Ferrell. We always talk about Will Ferrell with him. And so originally we were kind of debating which movies we were going to do. We were talking about Step Brothers versus Talladega Nights. But, those are both great, and it's kind of hard to differentiate quality between the two of them. And so we thought, since Nick had told us how awful Holmes and Watson is.
Opening day, baby. Christmas 2018.
Yeah.
Never forget.
Yeah, never
That's-
forget.
That's so funny
Went for
that
a
you
hike.
didn't see. In a future episode, we're going to talk about this in the next episode. But it's funny that you didn't see A Quiet Place in theaters, but you saw Holmes.
No,
and Watson.
I went with my brothers. I saw Holmes and Watson. My brother and I went for a hike. We met our other brother. We ate Del Taco for breakfast on Christmas Day because it was the only thing open. And then we went and watched Holmes and Watson.
That's
And
like the perfect brother day.
It was
Yeah.
a good brother. It was a good brother
For
morning.
you guys, yeah.
But
That's such a
we
Kelly
all
thing.
left the movie and we were just like, yeah, no, that was, yep, okay. On to the next thing.
Oh my god. Well, my buddy
good.
Nick Doria told me that he just like refused to rewatch this movie, and so yeah, it was kind of tough.
It was an unpleasant rewatch.
Why don't we get into our ratings then? Our rating scale,
Yeah.
just to reiterate, is 1 to 7. 7 being highest, 1 being lowest, 4 being in between or average.
Yes.
Our categories that we're gonna do. Do you know what the order is, right?
Yeah, our order today is our typical comedy categories,
Which we did on The Hangover.
Yeah,
versus
and then the
Two Boys, One
order
Car.
we're gonna do is acting, originality, legacy, spectacularity. Very sorry, Kane, and quotability. So
Okay,
That's
let's
our order.
start it off with acting, which is a category where we talk. So when it's a comedy, it is
yeah, it's a little different.
like we're not looking for Oscar level acting. We're looking for really believably funny characters. And then whether the writing and directing allowed them to be super funny or if it distracted from their natural
Right,
humor.
a little bonus in this category would be if there's like an actor in the movie who is not typically a comedic actor putting forth a performance that is hilarious.
Yep. And so, Aaron, why don't you start us off acting? Let's start with Step Brothers.
Step Brothers. All right. So, first off, the acting is there. Everyone in that movie is hilarious.
Yeah.
You can go from Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly, all the way down, like Adam Scott, his wife. Everyone in this movie is
Catherine Hahn.
fantastic. So I gave it a 7, personally.
Yeah.
And for the reasons of everything they do, they ad-lib so much in this movie.
Right.
And the directors really let them just take everything that they do and just go with it. Absolutely go with it. Let Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly be themselves. They basically feel like stepbrothers in it. If you look at it,
Yeah.
the scene when they're at dinner for the first time, they're together. They're literally
incredible
children. They're children together. Their mannerisms, everything that they do.
Well, they also, I was pointing this out to Nick earlier, the adults are eating normal food and drinking wine, and they aren't drinking wine even though they're 40 years old.
Isn't it the chicken nuggets or something like that? Like
Yeah.
dinosaur chicken nuggets?
with the
fancy
fancy
sauce.
Powerade and Diet Pepsi, like their
so
signature
funny.
drinks.
With the fancy sauce.
You want to do the 3, 2, 1 thing?
Oh yeah,
3, 2, 1. 7.
Yeah, all right, Nick. Why don't
Nice.
you talk about why you gave it a 7?
Same as Aaron. I mean, there's not a there's not a not funny performance all the way from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Everyone is funny. Everyone comes through with at least one hilarious line. I mean, you can go down to guys that aren't like huge characters in the movie, like Rob Riggle only has a few
I think
lines.
it's the best Rob
and
Riggle
Rob Riggle
performance.
steals a show. Like, it's just...
Pow! Pow! Are you saying pow? Oh, that's good. Yeah, mine was a little too descript. Like, you could tell that I'm saying pow.
Are you saying pal?
You say pow?
It's just good from top to bottom.
Kobayashi.
There's no bad performance. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Even people that aren't typically hilarious, like I forget the actor that plays the
Richard
dad.
Jenkins.
Richard Jenkins is
So
hilarious
good.
in this
Yeah.
movie. He wanted to be a dinosaur when he grew up.
The blind neighbor.
Oh my god, that guy's always funny in things. Yeah, he's so funny.
yeah,
Hi,
it's-
can I come over later and touch your face? Sure, Ron.
Thanks, Nancy.
I mean, well said. I gave it a 7. I think this is like, I always say this to Nick. This is Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly comedically at the peak of their powers. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Together, they are so funny. I think for me, it's Will Ferrell's face alone. Like, you wouldn't even have to give him lines. His face, especially at that dinner scene that Aron was talking
Yes.
about, is so funny. Like when he's like, "Oh, that's so funny." First time I heard that, I laughed so hard I fell off my dinosaur or whatever. And he's like super sad looking.
Just shakes off
Yeah,
with tears.
exactly that. It's just like, or it's like when he storms upstairs to put his nutsack on his drum set. Yeah, it's like so funny.
Also, that doesn't rhyme, and I've always been trying to get it to rhyme.
I know.
years.
I don't know. I thought at first he said nut set on your drum set or nut sack on your drum sack. I mean, and we haven't even talked about Adam Scott. I mean, you mentioned him briefly. Adam Scott, this is the funniest role he's ever been in. He is,
hands down.
Every single moment is
dude.
so good with him. He says the most absurd things, like guilty as charged, with the stories.
He even
he's great.
just oils his abs up.
I know, right?
Just for fun.
It's like a fake ab
Yeah.
set.
My name is David.
Yeah. What? Like, I can't imagine a funnier like intro to a comedic character in a movie than him. I mean, like, technically
Singing
speaking, you
Sweet
see
Child
him
of Mine by Guns N' Roses.
with his family, and it's like such a fake voiceover. Catherine Hahn, like, I think this made Catherine Hahn's career because
Yeah.
she was like funny before it, but this is.
Have you seen that show on HBO that she's on?
No, I haven't watched.
I haven't watched
yet.
it either, but every time I see the
want to.
trailer, I'm like,
What's the show?
is it? She's like a middle-aged
Middle-aged
woman
woman,
that has
yeah.
like a sexual awakening, I think.
Oh, okay. No.
So I'm like, okay, so she's just Adam Scott's wife from Step Brothers, but in a show.
Yeah.
Every time I see it, I'm like, she's just the character from Step Brothers,
She's
right?
So funny. Stay golden, pony boy. Man, the sex scene is so funny with her. I mean, yeah, you were right. It's like every minor character too. The therapist, Andrea Savage, is so funny. The little kid being like, "Dad, what's this guy's deal?" Or whatever the daughter says at that one point.
The daughter, where she talks about getting breast implants because she's too impatient.
They
to wait
also
for her
have
body.
the strangest relationship between brother and sister. There's
my
some
God.
weird sexual tension there.
Yeah, he does that little like look.
Yeah, when
at
they're in
her
the
at
back
when he does
seat
the solo.
singing. Yeah, it's a little much.
I
Little
also
much.
this is why it's a 7. Someone like Horatio Sands, who I complain about all the time. I hate Horatio Sands. I thought he was bad on SNL. I thought he was bad in The Mandalorian. Is so funny as the lead singer of the late 80s Billy Joel cover band.
Which
Where
is
it's
just
take
such
your
a-
skank
that's-
hooker wife and get out of here.
Such a funny joke.
Oh, it's so good. I think it's just helped by like endlessly quotable dialogue and really good directing by Adam McKay.
Yeah,
so,
holy Santa Claus shit. Is it helped by the
all right, so that's a 7 from all three of us. No surprise there. Let's go on to Holmes and Watson for acting.
Okay.
Nick, do you want to start this?
Yes, I do. I gave it honestly,
gonna
I'm
give
going to
it-
give it a 5 because this is not a category wherein we necessarily rate how funny it is all the way through.
Yeah.
We're talking about the kind of the performances that the actors are given. Now, given the writing in Holmes and Watson appears to be essentially non-existent. There's no writing. They seem to me to be improvising almost every single joke that they put forth. Joke
Oh, really?
in air quotes in the movie.
I
Yes.
felt that too, actually.
Yeah, maybe. I guess that would be why moments are funny. Yeah. All right.
It seems like they just tried over and over and over and over and over and over again to get a scene and just did whatever. And then
But then that means that what we got is the best of their attempts.
In an English accent.
Yeah.
I think that's what
English
held them
accent.
back.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about too.
Like, I don't think that there's a performance in it that's bad. I think that it is bad. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So I find it hard to like really give it a bad rating because I think Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly are still just Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly in it. And like some lines come through, some lines don't. And it's just, I don't know if it's a directing or writing issue. It's probably a writing issue or a lack thereof. But I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. That's my take on it.
So you gave it a 5 out of 7?
I gave it a 5.
And then
I'm going to
what
be generous.
did you give it, Aaron?
I gave it a 4.
Okay.
And the reason
So
I gave it a
average.
4, so average. I agree. I think the ad-lib portion is good, but the first scene kind of set the tone for me.
Yeah.
And it was bad. Like,
When
I
they're on the
actually kind of,
rooftop? Or when,
they're on the
Watson
rooftop
is
and
on the rooftop?
he's debating on killing himself, and Will Ferrell is like, no, just don't kill yourself here in my garden. Kill yourself
And
over
like, it's
there.
like the joke where they like can't understand.
Yeah, they
hear
can't
each
understand
other.
each other, and it was kind of funny. At least there was nowhere to go but up from that point. So
Yeah.
maybe that was a good
Yeah.
way to set it low. But overall, I think it's just a 4. I think the aspect of it, the fact that they didn't write too much, in my opinion, kind of brings it down too,
yeah.
because you're just relying too much on their comedic talent, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's
but
normally great.
Yeah, then you throw in an English accent. It kind of felt like an extended SNL scene almost.
Okay,
That's how
yeah.
I felt.
In spectacularity or originality, I talked about how I wrote down that it felt like an SNL sketch. so,
Right.
You haven't
yeah.
talked about it yet, Gabe.
Exactly.
Wait.
I'm saying I agree with you. But
Hold your
later
horses.
but I later agree with you. Yeah, I mean, so what? You gave it a 4?
I give it a 4.
Okay, I gave it a 3. I just think it's like the choice to give them dumb accents, like you said, held both of them back.
They're very smart accents, actually.
The choice to give them like intelligent, pretentious British accents like doesn't
Tissue.
work. It doesn't. It just feels like they're trying too hard. Whereas Step Brothers is such a like natural expression of their comedic talent.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was
And-
trying to get at too.
Yeah,
It
you-
seems like
you
they're
wouldn't-
trying too hard to do those improvised lines.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I was gonna say you wouldn't normally see the Holmes and Watson beat up by children so eloquently
Right.
as you did in Step Brothers. It's just the
It's
English
so-
accent.
Yeah, right. Are you talking about the post credit scene or the like mid credit scene where they beat the shit out of kids?
dog shit.
I was mainly going to the
Oh, okay, the belly.
belly
yeah.
of the white
yeah,
dog
that's
shit.
what I'm talking about.
Then yes,
Oh yeah. When the kids beat them up, but then in the
Yeah, it was
mid-credit scene, they beat the shit out of the kids, which is amazing.
that was beautiful.
Stick my foot so far up your ass.
I think like what hurts it a lot too is like the director / writer Ethan Cohen, which is like almost Ethan Cohen. I think that it's like a fake name that he uses for scripts, like or a
Really?
pseudonym. I just think like. That is the difference between these two movies. Because Will Ferrell is naturally so funny in everything he does. And John C. Reilly, like, always gives it his best. And I really respect him going away from drama to comedy and being so good at it. I think it's because he has a really funny face.
That
And I
mustache.
think he just, and the mustache. And he just, like, meshes so well with Sherlock Holmes, with Will Ferrell. But the difference is in the way it was written. Like, I just wonder if there, like, obviously it was ad lib, but I wonder if there was like even a writing room for any of it. There's just one writer on this movie. This guy had written Tropic Thunder, but he did it with Ben Stiller and Justin
I wonder
Theroux.
if he just had the idea.
That's what I think. I think that
Like
they
if he
stopped.
if he was just like, I think John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell would be really funny as Watson and Holmes.
Yeah.
So like, what if we did that?
Yeah.
And then they were like, yeah. Give them costumes. Give me costumes. And they would put on costumes, and they were just like there saying stuff.
Right, and it doesn't
until
help
it
the actors,
until it
though.
kind of worked for the scene, and then they
Yeah.
just kept whatever they thought was the funniest line. But it just doesn't work.
Right.
It ends up being confusing and not funny.
And they even take like, I don't understand why Ralph Fiennes or Ralph Fiennes like signed up for this movie. And Rebecca Hall. They're both great actors. I don't know why they signed up for the movie. I guess for the money. Yeah, Aron, thank you.
Aaron's
money
making
something.
the gesture
money
where you rub your thumb slowly across your middle and pointer fingers.
It's a very sensual
I
way of
almost
money.
wish that they
It's a podcast, Aaron. You have to describe.
Yeah, you
your
have to
hand
describe-
motion.
Well, I
Right.
didn't know we were going to go into my hand gestures.
I just almost wish that both of them like put in the effort that like serious actors like Val Kilmer in MacGruber is absolutely funny because he
Yes.
just
Yeah.
bought into the absurdity, and Tom Cruise in Tropic
Yep.
Thunder.
I mean,
they
Ralph
could've
Fiennes
done
has
something.
you can count the number of lines. I feel like on your fucking
Yeah.
fingers.
Yeah.
He mainly just was there to stare.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean,
Insane.
I gave it a 3. One shout out to the guy who did like a flawless impression of John Hurts in The Elephant Man, but it's like it's like a split second. It's not horrible. I think Will Ferrell really like pushes it forward, and I think John C. Reilly at times does as well.
The
Like,
only
people like
bad
Kelly
performance
MacDonald.
is
Lauren
Lauren Lapkus.
Lapkus. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
She
understand
sucks.
what was going on there.
All right, so that's a 3 from me, a 4 from Aaron, and a 5 from Nick.
Misguided five.
Yeah,
Nick.
misguided 5. But
Misguided.
doesn't matter, Nick. Make it up with originality. What did you give originality for Holmes and Watson? Originality, you can explain.
Yeah, I mean, originality is, did the movie need to be made? That's the primary question we're asking ourselves. I mean, no.
Was it clever in any way too?
Is
Yeah.
the answer to the question, I
agree.
guess. So I gave it a 2 because and the only reason that it's not a 1 is because I think any movie involving Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly should try and someone should try and make it.
Right.
I think the concept of like, let's have them be Holmes and Watson.
Yeah.
Could have been very good. So like the inception of the idea is a good one, but the follow through is not a good one.
Yeah, I'm curious to think what you or to hear what you
For originality?
Yeah.
I have it for the same exact reasons as Nick. I give it a 2.
Yeah.
The only reason it's not a 1 is because Will Ferrell's in it, and any movie with Will Ferrell in it needs to be made. Which doesn't work how I said that, but it should always be made.
Well, it's not just like did it need to be made. Like, is it creative in a
Right.
in a funny way? Like, is it an idea that kind of stands out in any way in the comedy genre?
I didn't think so. Like,
yeah.
at all. For me, it's like if I'm going to watch Holmes and Watson, I want to watch Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
Like, I want to watch that version, and I'll still laugh at
Right.
moments in that. And where I don't, like, I love them together, but I didn't need this.
See, I kind of disagree. I thought that the movie should be like,
The idea is
the
hilarious.
idea could have been
Yeah.
very good. And
It's like the execution that was wrong.
yeah, exactly. It's just like not a good movie, but it could have been very funny. And I think the idea of it is funny.
Yeah, the idea of making like a famous hero into like a funny rendition of him or something, you know, like taking Sherlock Holmes and turning it into something stupid and funny is a good idea.
There's a
You
lot
just
to
have
make fun of.
Right, they did it with Austin Powers where they take James Bond and essentially turn it into something funny and make fun of all the parts of James Bond. And they did attempt to make fun of, you know, like the scientific way that Sherlock Holmes like evaluates some kind of situation. Is like they attempted, but it almost wasn't funny. It was just
it's-
kind of clever.
I thought the only time they kind of hit the funny part there was when they like slow it down, right? Like they're going through the scene.
Yeah.
Is at the very last scene when he just keeps getting distracted. He's like, oh no, I forgot about the bomb.
Right, that was
That
funny.
was, like, the
and he
only-
kept getting distracted by his own thoughts of the other characters
Yeah.
in it.
Watson
Yeah.
tried to do it instead
Yeah.
of Holmes. Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, it's like, I don't know. I love parodies.
Yeah,
I love.
I do too.
I love the idea of a good parody romp, but this just didn't execute it appropriately.
Yeah, I gave it a 2 as well because I think that it's either you take a really good idea like that and then execute it better, and then or you take or you don't let that original idea or that creative idea get in the way of the natural comedy of things, the natural flow. So let's move on to Step Brothers originality.
Okay. What did you give it, Gabe?
I gave Step Brothers a 6.
Okay.
And here's the thing. I know that Step Brothers is a really simple idea. It's not super creative. It's just basically like two guys that are 40 and caught in arrested development. And it's like the only cleverness of that is just to keep them at the age they're at. You know, like 40 years old as opposed to like a 25-year-old that's staying at their mom's house, which is really not a big deal at all. I just gotta love how simple the storyline is, and something about that is creative. It's like, we don't need big ideas to create comedy. We take this little idea of just these 40-year-old guys who won't leave their mom and dad's houses, and then have like their parents get together kind of like in a Parent Trappy type way. That's where the creativeness comes
So are
from.
you
I
saying
don't know how to,
a little goes a long way?
Yes. I think like what kept it at a 6 instead of lower is just how focused they are on the theme of the movie. Like,
Right.
it's not like a crazy theme, but they're focused on it, and they like don't need a complex story to create all these jokes. It's like they took something simple and made every scene absolutely ridiculous. And like, you know, even the scenes, there's no throwaway scene, and that's something more clever than a lot of comedies. I don't know. It's hard to explain why, but that's why.
No, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, what about you? Aaron?
I was gonna say your last point's big. There's where every single scene is funny. Like
Yeah.
there's never a single dull moment in that movie. But for originality, for me, this was the hardest category for me when it came to Step Brothers.
Yeah, it's a tough one for
It's tough
comedy.
with comedy.
Yeah, but I gave it a 5.
Okay.
Only because I feel like there's something out there that's similar to it.
Right.
And that's the funny part is it's just a feeling. I don't really know.
Trust your
but
feelings, or search your
yes,
feelings,
but
you know
it
to be
does.
true.
It stands out. It stands out completely amongst his peers, and I wanted to give this a 7. Honestly, I wanted to give it a 7 across the board for everything, but I just feel like there's something that still kind of held it back. Maybe it's because it's a comedy, and maybe there's no comedy that will truly hit that 7 in originality
Right.
out there. But to me, there's just something that was holding it back, that was preventing it from not the quality of the movie, but just the originality aspect that was preventing it from really hitting the top.
So I gave it a 4.
Oh, interesting.
okay.
Because, like you were saying, like it's a buddy comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, all of Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly's movies generally are buddy comedies, which
Right.
is like, again, this category is very difficult to articulate in terms of like for a comedy, not in terms, just for a comedy, it's hard to articulate how original it is. Is the style that they made the movie in original? Not really.
Yeah.
It's mostly improvised. It's mostly kind of banking on the raw comedic skill of the actors in the movie. It's a buddy comedy. The idea of them being like 40-year-old men in Arrested Development is also not necessarily a super original thing, but it is hilarious.
Those people exist.
Yeah, and it's also like 40-year-old virgin, obviously, right there.
Definitely exists. Yeah, that's true.
You know, like there are other films
It's a different type of
that do
Arrested
this. Oh my God, why am I blanking on the? Oh my God, Knocked Up. That's another one.
all
I couldn't
those
think of the
guys that
title
lived
of Knocked
together.
Up for a
Yeah,
second.
none of them really grew up.
But they're kind of, that's like a common comedic trope, and this movie just happens to do it really, really well. So is it super original? No. But to me, it just seems kind of average in this category.
I mean, okay.
In this category. Because
If
other
I-
categories it is not, obviously not average, and it's above, in my opinion. But
Right. I mean, if I could clarify why I do a 6, like that's pretty high for this. It's
Sure.
that there are a lot of creative moments in it, and I think those moments kind of carry the movie through. Like every time you see the drum set, it has that that like dark operatic. Yeah, like dude, my friend Kevin like dies of laughter every time he sees that. There's not like the blind neighbor's dog not healing. When he's
my
like,
God.
heal,
Cinnamon.
Like, that cinnamon heals. Like that's hilarious. There's not a lost moment. So I think it's just like really creative throughout it. It's like take
Sure.
a simple concept and a little can go a long way, and they carry that through. And that's why it's a 6 to me, because it's like instead of just taking an idea, like a crazy idea, like what if Sherlock Holmes was a comedy? It's like, no, let's take this simple thing. These guys are just like 40-year-old stepbrothers who are super immature, but let's make the comedy creative as you go.
That's a really good point.
The thing that I also think adds to your point a little bit is like the stepbrother aspect. They're 40, yes, but they acted like they're 12.
Right.
And
That's
it was
fair.
set up to basically be like, these are a family moving in together, as if it's like a 12-year-old moving in with another family.
Exactly.
It isn't like it's like an
But you're 40, yeah.
exaggeration of that.
Better
that
yet, we
concept.
have them when we're 40.
And so,
Yeah.
maybe that is clever too. That's like a genius idea as well. I don't know.
No.
So, that was a 6 from me. That was a 5 from you and a 4 from Nick.
Yes.
Let's move on to Spectac Hilarity, which
Also,
is...
I love that.
Thank
I
you.
feel like people
Kane
have given you
shit on
crap.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious.
Thank you. You are
That's where you-
Spectac Hilarious.
Thank you.
But not
I know.
spectacular.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so Spectac
Wow,
Hilarity
dude.
is where we
My
take
mom
our
tells me that.
spectacularity category. That's sad little thing slipped in there. No, actually, sad. Is that sad? No, I think that's sad.
I think that's
All
sad.
right, Spectacularity
I think that's
is
sad.
a category where we talk about like the engagement of a movie, like how engaged you were, like how interested you were you distracted by runtime, anything like that. But we combine it with it being a comedy, the hilarity, and like how well balanced it is in terms of comedy. Is there a lost moment?
It's a mathematic situation.
Yeah.
It's
Very
how
scientific.
many laughs. It's all very scientific. I'm not going to get into it right now.
There's an algorithm.
But there's an algorithm. It's how much do you laugh? What is the rate of your laughing? So how frequently are you
And the decibel level, too.
you busting up?
Yeah.
I think for this one, we should do the 3, 2, 1, all three of us.
Oh,
Well, wait. Which movie are we doing first?
We're doing Step Brothers. So, Spectacularity in 1, 2, 3, 7.
7.
Whoa, Nick. All right, Nick
You
gets to start it
son
off
of a-
then.
I get to start because I had a slightly lower
Yeah.
score.
Why did you give it a 6 out of 7?
I believe that this movie is perfect in a different way than in this category. I didn't want to give it too many perfects
Yeah.
because
It's not your favorite.
it
Well, that's wrong.
Yeah.
is
Well, for
that
him.
is to be revealed later.
Okay. Yeah, true.
Ooh.
Save it.
Jeez, spoilers.
Go ahead.
I just don't. I don't know. I don't think it's perfect, but I think that it is spectacular and hilarious. There are some scenes in it where there is a bit of a lull.
Name one.
Let's see.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You have to name one.
Yeah, I have to name at least one scene. I feel like.
I got one for you, buddy. Keep going.
What's yours?
Wait,
No, I'm
know
asking
one
you the
that's a
question.
You
lull?
know one?
Yeah.
You have one on the top of your head? Do it. I wonder if it's the
Yeah,
same as
you
the one.
think about it.
Because I'm
In
thinking
my
one.
opinion,
Yeah.
It's the car ride back after they did the presentation of Prestige Worldwide. Mm-hmm. And that's the only one for me.
That's
No.
one.
But there's even a funny part in there where
Yeah,
he's like,
that's all funny.
sorry about your boat, but what did you think of the presentation?
Yeah, that's all funny.
There's I don't know.
So I just
there's
proved myself
some
wrong.
of the end of the movie. So I gave
Okay.
it. This is when I was thinking of this. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a 6 because we need to have a talking point. We can't all agree on everything, and I knew that we would come to this point here. So
is
I
good.
think that toward the end of the movie, the amount of laughs over time starts to kind of decline.
This is so
Oh, this is
nerdy.
so good.
Yeah, okay.
No, you got
There
one.
is a decline at the end of this movie, like kind of around the Catalina, the beginning of the
Catalina
Catalina
Wine
Wine Mixer.
Oh,
where there is
that's where it
not
starts.
so much laughing. Now there's the Horatio Sands,
Dude, that part's so funny.
like hilarious Billy Joel situation, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's just different than the rest of the movie. It's like this very quick pace, like you're laughing all the time. There's all these ridiculous scenes, and then there's maybe not so much. It starts to taper down at the end.
Okay.
So I got nitpicky. Sorry.
All right, no, that's fine. No, Nick, you are allowed to express your
Isn't it
opinion.
Nick Picky?
Yeah, it's Nick
But,
Picky.
But
That's pretty good. Aaron, why did you give it a 7 out of 7?
Okay, so I gave it a 7 out of 7 because, to Nick's point, there's usually a lull in comedies.
Yeah.
In my opinion, there really wasn't much of a lull in this comedy. It continues. It might drop a tiny bit, but you're still laughing at all the points. I mean, it starts from the wedding, basically, in my opinion, because I think when the mom and dad get introduced, not that funny yet.
Yeah.
Like, there's some funny parts. It's
like
building
the Rob
up.
Reiner line.
Which line?
When she's like, when they're explaining like who they are.
Oh, yeah,
very
about
quickly
having
as they're
a-
making out,
yeah.
and she's like, "I love movies by Rob Reiner."
I know how to make chicken tandoori.
But I mean, it just starts from like the point where they're describing at their wedding. Like they start
Yeah.
talking about Will Ferrell, and he's like, and he got let go from his job at PetSmart. It's like, why do you have to bring that up to everyone?
Yeah, he's like, I
to
wasn't
me,
fired,
yeah.
I was laid off, but you wouldn't know the difference. I didn't want salmon. I said it 4 times.
This wedding is horseshit.
Yeah. Such a
Basically,
good line.
every single moment from that point on is just, it's funny, and it doesn't stop. And just rewatching it reasserted that to me, because I was waiting for that lull.
Yeah.
I was waiting, basically from when they got beat up by kids to, or whenever the parents are selling the house, I was waiting for that lull, and it didn't really happen.
Yeah. I think for me, so I gave it a 7 as well. I think for me, the reason why it's, especially with this category being spectacularity mixed with the hilarity, it's that there are 4 big, like incredibly funny montages that keep the movie going. There's their rivalry pranks, like at the beginning where they're messing with each other, is really funny. Them becoming best friends and measuring their dicks, like when they're... It's
exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly. Like that whole sequence is really funny.
The pregnancy test?
Oh, yeah.
Hilarious to me for some reason.
Oh, yeah. That is pretty ridiculous. Yeah. Their job interviews, especially with the Pam scene. And then, like, you know, Seth Rogen is great. Or when they're, like, interviewing the guy and he's like, please put your hand down. They're like, you gotta marry one. You gotta fuck, kill, and marry one. Oprah, Barbara Walters, your wife. Go. And then there's the therapy sessions. Like, that's another big montage. And you get, like, the really funny moment with him talking about how his life is Goodwill Hunting. And Andrea Savage's character, like, trying to, like, fend off his, like, sexual advances.
I love you. Are you just saying? No, I fucking love you.
It's all funny. I mean, there's even like that whole therapy session is also when they're like trying to sell the house and they're messing with Derek.
Oh my God.
There's like there's like great moments, just like pure moments between the two of them, you know, like when they're at dinner the first night and everything. But then there are all these montages that just keep you going. There's like a real pace to this movie. And I don't know, like there's just like little things that make me laugh too, you know, like I forgot to ask you, do you like guacamole like right before
so good.
collapses? I don't know, that's why I did it. You know, there's just like a lot of hilarious, stupid things mixed into like the main story that works for me.
Even just the stuff you see on the side, like little nuances, everything is set up perfectly to be funny nonstop.
I mean, that's what it is. I think 6 is fair too, because it's still well above average for a comedy. Let's talk about hilarity with Holmes and Watson.
2.
You gave it a 2. What about you, Aaron?
I want to go last on this one.
Oh, okay.
I actually forgot to rate this, so I'm going to give it a 2.
Okay. Why?
Yeah, I want to give it a 2 because I just, you know, we already talked about it. I think that the opening scene just immediately took me out of it as being like a funny comedy. That him on the rooftop. Yeah. I even turned to Aaron and Nick, like, as we were watching it, and he falls on the melon or the cucumber or whatever.
I think it's a cucumber.
Yeah, I think a giant
It
cucumber.
seems a little bit like a zucchini because the inside is yellow.
okay.
It
That's
doesn't,
basically
it
the-
doesn't
that's
really
what-
matter, but I turned to both of them and I was
It's
like...
a squash of some sort.
Yeah, I turned to both of them and I was like, is that supposed to be played for laughs? And it just like... After that, it just felt like an SNL sketch. Like one of those SNL sketches where they have a great idea, but they don't flesh it out in any way.
Right.
Or they have it go an hour and a half.
Yeah, or exactly. They have it go an hour and a half.
I think it's more than an hour and a half.
And something that Nick and I always talk about in this category is like, were you worried about runtime? I multiple times said, why is this movie still going on? There's still 30 minutes and like it hasn't been that long, Gabe.
Yeah, it's
but that's
just
what it felt
not
like for me.
It just doesn't work. It's not funny all the
Yeah.
way through. There are very few the laughs are the true laughs, not like giggles. The actual like laughs are sporadic at best.
Yeah, like
And
the
it's just
moment,
not-
the moment where you're like, this town is not very friendly to outsiders, and this guy like asks for directions, and he's like, hey, where do I go from here to here? He's
No,
like,
he goes, excuse me, sir, do you know what time it is? And he goes,
it's invisible. And then he just like, fuck you, outsider, or whatever, and like stabs him.
stabs him in the neck.
Yeah, it's so good.
And the puking scene, but there are only I can count the number of times that in the theater the first time I watched this I actually like belly laughed on one hand. It's just not engaging in the sense of or like it's not engaging and it's not funny, and those are the two things we're talking about in this category. So it's a 2. Is it the worst comedy I've ever seen? No, it's close.
There's been worse Will Ferrell movies.
But there's
Yeah,
worse.
Land of the Lost. Oh my god.
There's
is that
worse
movie
out
bad.
there, so it's not a 1, but it's a 2.
Yeah.
So
what about you, Aaron?
do you want a drum roll or
No, it's not. It's not
Zoolander
big.
2? Oh god, I didn't
No one
think
saw
of
that movie.
Yeah.
I was debating between a 4 and a 5 on this one actually, and I, for real reasons,
so glad Aaron
settled at a 4.
Okay.
The only because I had the
Average.
same, average. I had the same start of the movie. I mentioned it earlier, and the note I took for that was strange fucking start to the movie, but to me it went up from there, and it's probably because I love Will Ferrell, but I also have the thing with him where I have to watch his movies twice because the first time I watched The Other Guys, I hated that movie the first time I watched it, and I watched it again, and I was like, "This is hilarious."
I agree. That's like that's the perfect example.
I think that's a great, and Nick's the only one who has seen this movie twice, so I'm kind of giving it a little bit of a chance here.
Yeah.
He went
What
with
do you
2,
think,
so I'm
Nick?
not
Was
feeling
it better?
optimistic.
no?
Okay.
Not better. That's not good. But I still feel like there's scenes in there that I also have a stupid sense of humor, and I'll laugh at almost anything.
Yeah. For a smart man.
Thank you, I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
you're welcome.
My mom says that. I'm gonna bring my mom a couple
my
more
God.
times. No, just kidding. But no, where they're trying to kill the bees, like they kill the mosquito, but then they let the bees out, and Watson just pulls his guns out and
and starts
starts
shooting it.
shooting them. Like
Start shooting.
that's the way to kill bees. If
So
you
that's a
ever need to
funny
know.
bit.
So
That's
you
a funny
felt
bit.
really engaged during it.
More so than I expected. I also came into this with very low expectations, and there's just for them. They can say one little thing that I will never remember, but I will just laugh for no reason at. And that's what kept happening throughout this movie, where you guys were kind of quiet, and I was just like,
Yeah, Aaron was laughing. a
Yeah,
little bit more.
you did laugh more than
we
us.
were all completely sober.
To go, yeah, that's
So,
true.
we knew that.
Yeah, that's kind of true. To kind of go off of what Nick said, I do think that the laughter is just few and far between the funny moments. Whereas like something like Zoolander or like Step Brothers, I think it's designed to be funny at every moment.
Right.
Every line is supposed to be funny, whereas this one tried to make it, a story. There would be like court scenes that's not trying to be funny when they're not in it. And I think that just kind of hurts it because it takes me out of the comedy engagement. I don't think a movie needs to be funny at every single moment. Like a movie like Game Night I've brought up a few times. I
Right.
like the story of Game Night, so I don't really care about the comedy when they're trying to focus on story. I didn't care about this story. And so I wasn't engaged in that way.
Right, but I really feel like Holmes and Watson tries to be funny
They do. Yeah.
in every scene.
They tried to be funny.
But-
the movie...
I think the movie tries to be funny in every scene and fails to do so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, to that point too, because they bring in the guy from like WWE, or like let's get ready to
that's
rumble.
right.
Like
We
they bring
forgot to
him
shout
in.
him out.
They bring
Billy
Billy
Zane.
Zane in. Like all that stuff, just that kind of like slapstick humor almost at it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I'm also dumb, but
No,
I
you're
enjoyed
not
it.
dumb. You're a smart man. All right. Well, okay. So that was a 2 from Nick and I, and
A 4.
a 4 from Aaron. So generous.
Coming in hot.
Let us move on to Legacy.
Lagachi.
Legacy. So, Nick, what did you give? Actually, I'm gonna throw it over to Aaron.
Ooh.
Aaron, what did you give Holmes and Watson for Legacy? And Legacy, normally we're talking about how this is gonna, how this is gonna stand in the history of movies. But with a comedy, it's like, how well will it age? Like, if you watch this in 10 years, would you still laugh at it? Would you cringe a lot? Was it politically incorrect? Like, it makes you feel weird about society? Like, it doesn't need to be politically correct to be a funny movie, but is it going to make you not want to ever watch this again in the future? I don't know how better to explain that.
Yeah, I give it a 2.
Okay.
Pretty
Fair.
bad. There's a lot of cringeworthy scenes in there. I think the first one that I kind of thought of was when they're in the morgue cleaning the body and just rubbing the animal
The
fat.
animal
It was
fat?
funny, but you're
Yeah.
also like,
Yeah,
what
it's
is
weird.
happening? You're like just coating a dead body in that, and your fingers are entwined.
Yeah.
It was weird, kind of cringy, but also the fact that they're the first one to create the drunk text, the intoxigram.
Yeah, that's funny.
It was funny, but it's also like, you don't really need it.
Right.
I don't know. That's how I felt.
Like,
and
they're
same with
trying too hard,
the
yeah.
selfie and the duck face. Like, I don't think that's gonna pass on too well.
Platypus face.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Well,
platypus face.
I guess I'm just making it for the
Yeah, is
current
it
time.
gonna date the movie?
Yeah,
by
exactly. I think
doing
that's gonna
stuff like
date.
that?
Exactly. I
Yeah.
think that's gonna date it because that's more current to what we're at now.
Right.
I also think the fact that they almost killed the queen.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna go over too well in England ever.
Yeah.
They also
they tried to
humped
make
her
it-
and then punched her
Yeah, and
unconscious.
we're
spot.
about
So
to
true.
just cut
So,
her
you
into
know.
toilet.
Especially since they
bowl
tried to
size
make this like a British
toilet-sized
movie.
toilet-sized pieces.
Toilet-sized pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it's not designed to be funny to British people and it's actually designed to be offensive to them, who's it designed for?
I mean, I think it's designed to be funny to American people because there are so many attempts at making fun of the current American political landscape
Right.
that just crash and burn. I gave it a 1.
I gave it a
because
1
I don't
as
think
well.
anyone's going to talk about this movie in the future.
No.
I don't think it's necessarily cringy, but I do agree with you, Aaron. Like, it has a bunch of scenes that try too hard to poke fun at current things, like cultural things, and
Yeah.
like the "Make England Great Again" fez hat. Like, just come on, man.
Yeah, we all commented on that. I gave it a 1 as well. I think something that could really explain how this legacy is going to be is that this movie had a $42 million budget somehow. That is so much. We just talked about A Quiet Place, and A Quiet Place was like a $17 million budget. I don't know how the fuck they wasted this much money on this.
It's probably the clothes.
Clothes and the locations. It made 41.9 million. So it
Didn't even
lost
break even?
100,000 or something. Yeah. I just think no one ever talks about this movie. No one's gonna suggest that you watch Holmes and Watson if you want a comedy.
No.
I think it kind of made people think that this whole run with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly might be over. I say it's not. Just make it simpler. Just do simple shit.
Yeah.
That's what worked with. I just think it's not a really rewatchable movie, and that sucks for comedy. I think that's really important, and we'll get into that in our next
Right.
category. Before we do that, let's talk about Step Brothers Legacy. Nick, do you want to start this off?
My legacy rating for Step Brothers is a 5.
Okay.
I think that it's above average in terms of how much people are going to talk, or people do talk about the movie. I mean, I could definitely see giving it a higher rating, but I put a 5 down when I
Yeah.
watched it. I don't think that it's the best comedy that's ever been made, but it's
Not the worst.
not the worst, and it is
Or-
definitely one of, if not
obviously
the
not.
most. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I
not.
don't know why I said that. That
It's
was
one
just
of it's one of, if not the most quotable comedy that I can think of off the top of my head. So it
Right.
definitely has
Yep.
some
We'll get-
legacy,
we'll
but
get into that.
But again, it just kind of that goes along with my originality rating. These just aren't, originality and legacy just aren't the two categories that I necessarily think about first when I think about this movie.
Yeah, I agree. Aaron, what about you?
I give it a 6 for legacy. The thing that held me back, because I wanted to give it a 7. I want to
Yeah.
give it a 7 on all these, but obviously didn't. The thing that held me back is some of the stuff that they were doing, when they're trying to sell the house. And but
Yeah.
it's purposeful, which did knock it down to a 5. Because when you have a Nazi as your next door
Yeah,
neighbor saying,
Ku
"We
Klux
got a
Klan."
bunch of fertilizer in the back,"
Yeah.
and then a KKK person right across the street,
All the neighbors recycle.
yeah, all the neighbors recycle. It's a great place. Those things, it's purposeful, but there's gonna be some pushback against that.
Right.
And then also when you have the family walking in and there's a dead body and they're like, "I've seen too many dead bodies."
That's
know
a
that
hilarious little
it's
sideline, by the
hilarious,
way. Yeah.
but there's potential
Is
for it to
that
kind of
Phil
hold
Lamar?
it back.
By
It's
the
Phil
way?
Lamar and the girl who's in Superbad. She's like, I got a goddamn veterinary exam tomorrow, or whatever. It's like, she has a veterinary exam.
One thing though that I also think kind of holds it back is and again, it's all purposeful, which is why I did not drop it down to a 5 for a 6, is also how men are perceived in upper management roles.
Oh yeah,
Kind of with the brother.
Well, it's like purposeful, right?
Yeah, it's all purposeful,
with
'cause
the
it's all
wives
supposed to-
at the table,
Yeah.
like looking really sad.
It's all
yeah.
supposed to be douchebaggy and all of that stuff. It's all purposeful, but I think you're gonna have some pushback against that.
Right,
possibly.
like you couldn't make that nowadays.
Yeah, or you wouldn't feel as comfortable. Granted, it is a comedy, and it's the one place that you can kind of get away with doing it.
Sure,
but
absolutely.
You're still
Right.
doing it.
I gave it a 6 as well. I personally, Legacy for me, like it's a top 10 comedy, so I would give it a 7 for myself. But this honestly wasn't well liked by a lot of people. It still isn't. On IMDb, which is a user rating, it's 6.9.
Yeah.
And it's
What?
at 69% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's all
Nice. Oh,
purposeful. I think again, it's all purposeful.
yeah.
Like the people are coming in, they're like, "This is out of 70. This movie's
Yeah, let's put
amazing."
this at 6.9.
Downvote.
That's pretty tight.
Oh,
The
wow.
only comedy out there was 69
So
and
you're
6.9.
thinking there's a 69 conspiracy.
I think
out
there's
there.
a 69
There
conspiracy
is,
theory.
there is. Trevor Bauer, do you care to comment? I remember
Cincinnati.
when I saw this in theaters, like I collapsed in the aisle laughing. Like I can't imagine someone not
Dude, you were
watching
sitting
this and
down.
not laughing. I know I collapsed out of a
They
seat.
called the paramedics.
Yeah. It made about like 128 million, which is really not that much for what I think this movie is. Like I thought this was a huge comedy. I don't really think, besides what you mentioned, I don't think it's really aged poorly. I don't think there's a lot of like, there's not a lot of like unintentional racism or anything in that. They do say
It's all intentional
they
racism.
do say like gay slurs multiple times. But even something as funny as like beating up kids is just like funny in it. It's like you can't be mad at that. Like if you're mad at that, then just like go watch something on Disney.
Will Ferrell movies often have scenes in which
They beat up kids.
children beat up each other or people beat up children.
That's true.
It's like a common thread. It's a very strange
It is
one, but
kind
it
of a common
occurs.
thread.
It is. He does it a lot.
Okay, so that was a 6 from Aaron and me, and that was
I give it a 5.
5 from Nick. Yeah, fair.
I'm being
let's
extra critical today.
let's end this with quotability / rewatchability. Let's start with Holmes and Watson because I think it's gonna be a little quick for the three of us. What we're talking about here is obviously like just whether it's quotable in general and whether it like impacted our conversations with other people or would it impact. And then, is it a really rewatchable movie? You know, I don't think every movie needs to be, but comedies certainly should be rewatchable. That they're supposed to be fun.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the point.
So let's do Legacy for Holmes and Watson.
Yeah.
Aaron.
Legacy?
Legacy?
No, quotability.
Oh, sorry, quotability.
right?
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Caught me off guard.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Now I'm on guard. 3.
On God.
On guard.
Yeah.
3 for me.
3. Okay.
Which I think might be a little high.
Can you?
For the quotability, well, because there are some really funny quotes in there that I want to use, but I know I'm not going to because no one will get the reference, which is I think is a big part of quotability. Is people have to be like, I know what you're talking
people,
about.
You mean,
Right, you
like
have to
people
explain
have
Like it-
people
Right.
have to have seen Holmes and
Yeah, that
Watson
has to
and
go into
enjoyed
this
it.
category.
Like
Like, if I
there's
just-
8 people out
Yeah.
there that have watched and enjoyed this movie.
If I go in and say it reeks of loins in here, everyone's gonna be like, "Who are you?
Yeah.
like
exposed to
get the
doing-
fuck out."
Yeah.
Platypus
Right. Yeah, you would
face.
sound like a crazy
Platypus
person.
face.
He creams his own eclairs.
Well, you know
there's some great quotes
That
in
was
there,
so good.
but they're really just like they're not even full like one-liners necessarily. I don't know how you describe them, but I don't know. So the quotability aspect kind of good. I'd have to rewatch it to get more.
I knew this was the reason why you gave it a 3 because you know you have to rewatch
I
it.
have to rewatch
Yeah.
it. It's exactly why. Because for me, like I said, Will Ferrell movies I have to rewatch. So I'm
fair.
going to at some point. But what did the? Oh, no, I'll let you guys go.
Okay, so
Go
I
ahead.
gave it a 1, and I would like to demonstrate why I gave it a 1 with the
please
following
do.
experiment. This is how long it takes to scroll through the quotes page on IMDb. I'm done.
Oh, that's so good.
It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quotes. Many of these quotes are just
Wait, read the
multiple
last year,
What
too.
are the quotes?
multiple phrases, like or just like multiple lines, like the whole Your Majesty, do you think I could have a picture of us together? The whole like the whole selfie scene is
That's
just
not funny.
is just all one
Wasn't
quote in
good.
here. It's like it's nothing. There are very few quotes. My favorite quote of the whole movie is "This man creams his own eclair." And I also really like toilet-sized chunks, Watson.
That was a good
Toilet-sized chunks.
Did you say water?
But it's not quotable. The funny parts
that's
of
pretty
Holmes
funny
and
to me.
Watson are slapsticky.
know-
They're like
Oh, raspberry jam, my favorite. Oh, my weakness.
my weakness. They're like the funniest parts of Holmes and Watson are the puking scene when you find out that Holmes is very averse to the sight of dead bodies.
Yeah.
And the stabbing scene that Gabe talked about earlier.
But what about this one? The intoxicant. What are you wearing? Stop. It's like that.
Yeah, all of the is it a brassiere? Stop.
Also, some of the best quotes are like written text in it, like carbon monoxide,
Yes.
the cure for insomnia, or I'd like to hang that bitch myself, Gandhi. I gave it a 1 as well. I don't think this movie's very rewatchable. Even though those quotes got me,
All right.
I wouldn't quote them to my friends. Like, this would never impact any of my conversations with friends and
No.
family.
I just think the water one I might end up using at
I
some
might
point.
do that as well.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm ever puking, like next time I puke, if I don't make that joke in between like gags, I don't know.
when we
What am I
bring you
doing?
water.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, you
Specifically.
jagaloons.
All right, so I am so excited to talk about quotability for Step Brothers.
exciting.
We are going to run through some quotes. So, Nick, start this off. What did you give it in terms of quotability and rewatchability?
It's a 7. It's a hard 7 because it's the most quotable movie I can think of.
Is it possible to give it under a 7 if you're a guy?
No.
No.
Yeah.
I got close to the mic for that.
Aaron got
You look
closer.
like you're in a
No.
congressional hearing. Yeah. Thank
What do
you,
I
Mark
do with my
Zuckerberg.
hands?
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
I'm looking good. I got a luscious V of hair from my chest pubes down to my ball fro. She says, I've had the old bull, now I want the young calf. Just
So she got me about to
Shut
wean
the
it.
fuck up. Yeah. Okay. So, like, when we're talking about this, this is a 7 all around, right?
Yeah.
When we're talking about this, talk about the quotes that you think that you just quote all the time, and other people immediately know that you're talking about Step Brothers.
Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer.
Yeah. That's
I don't know
good.
if shits and gigs.
Hey, y'all don't say that.
Y'all don't say that. Let's see.
So much room for activities.
Yes, that's probably my favorite quote. Because where we just moved into, there's so much room for
you have
activities.
so much room for activities.
So much room.
Stay golden, pony boy.
Oh,
is
that's
a great,
great.
line.
Yeah, that's an outsider's
that's
line, but
outsiders,
now
yeah.
it's been usurped by Step Brothers.
Whenever-
We're men, and that means a few things. We shit with the door open. We like to talk about pussy. We go on riverboat gambling trips, and we make our own beef jerky.
We have literally done none of those things. Yeah, I say that I smoke pot with Johnny Hopkins all the time. It was
Sloan
Johnny Hopkins and Sloan Kettering, and they used to blaze that shit up every day. Kevin, my friend Kevin, always does this. Like, anytime we're at a dinner table or something, he always goes, "For me." With the, like, the secret sauce. He thinks it's hilarious.
the clown, or
Will
when
you shut your mouth? Shut your mouth. You're just coming off as stupid.
the pan Pam thing. No, I think I could chime in here about the pan Pam thing.
It's been called...
It's like PANM.
Yeah.
The M is
it's
silent.
Pam and...
Pam.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
it's
two
2 M's.
Okay.
The movie just is non-stop a gold mine for
We're here to
quotes.
fuck shit up.
One of my favorite quotes, and I feel like no one says this though, is when they wake up from the dream, goes, "The clown has no penis." Yes.
Oh, Nick loves that.
What are you guys dreaming about?
That's cute. I remember my first beer. I say that all the time. Like, and sometimes I forget that's from Step Brothers.
Jagaloons is a great quote
That's
from
good.
this. That
Oh,
means
wait.
absolutely nothing.
When they're going on their way in to move into the house, when Will Ferrell's like, "I'm not going to call him Dad. I'm not going to ever, even if there's a fire."
Yeah.
Robert
There's a
better not get in
fire.
my face because I will drop that motherfucker.
Brendan, Jesus, yeah. So good.
Last week, we put liquid paper on a bee,
It died.
and it died.
Dale has a mangina. Like, everyone fucking says that. I've traveled 500 miles to give you my seed. Lumberjack.
Oh wait.
Oh man,
The one I use with our good friend Tyler Dervish, we all love him. Is whenever there's shoulder pain, right? Do you know what's good for shoulder pain? If you lick my butthole.
You're not a doctor. You're a big, fat, curly-headed fuck.
It's just the most
God.
dude quotiest movie.
Oh, yeah. Why do you have Randy Jackson's autograph on a martial arts weapon? Because I bumped into him, and all I had on me was a samurai sword. And you're not going to get Randy Jackson's autograph, right? That's the most...
I would have done the same thing.
I imagine sitting in that writing room and being like, what's the most random person's name
Yeah,
we could put in
who
this?
could he have on this katana?
I watched American Idol last night.
Shut your mouth, essay!
I got a belly full of white dog shit.
And now you laid this shit on me?
Or the part where they're watching Shark Week and he goes, "It's power. It's raw power."
Raw power. It's so good. We can do this honestly all
for
day.
days.
Dad, what's this guy's deal?
It's like masturbating in a time machine.
Why are you so sweaty?
Watching cops.
And
Cops
dude,
doesn't
even the
come on
Brett
till
Michael
4.
Michaels scene is so funny in that moment when they show that one moment of Rock of Love or whatever with Brett Michael
yeah.
Michaels. He's like, he does that like weird face.
You and your mom are hillbillies. This is a house of learned doctors.
Oh, it's so good. I've been called the songbird of my generation. Is like everyone says that.
like
It's
a
just
lightning-
also just so rewatchable.
Oh, it's so good. It's
Wait,
so
did you
good.
say that-
Well, I was gonna say it's like a lightning bolt to struck the tip of my penis.
Oh, it's all so good. Honestly, you could just like
We could spend another
like
10
the
minutes.
Matrix. You could just like download it into our brains.
Do you
and
want me
we
to
could say
do
it
how
all
long
the
it
time.
takes to scroll through the quotes of this movie on IMDb?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Starting now. Okay, I'm done.
That was quick scrolling though. All right,
was.
so we ended that there. That's a 7 all around for quotability. Do you guys have your final counts for these movies?
Only if you call me Nighthawk. We did not touch on that.
That moment is why I love Will Ferrell so much in this movie. Is that the line by John C. Reilly calling him Dragon is hilarious, but him saying you have to call me Nighthawk.
Yeah, he just comes
is
up with
so
it.
much funnier. I don't
It's
know
so
what it is.
good.
Yeah. So Nick, what is your total for Step Brothers?
I'll have to do math.
It's a
Hold on.
29.
Whoa. Aaron, what about you?
I'm adding.
Okay. Mine is a 32 out of 35.
Wow.
And we'll talk about this. We're going to get into this later, but this is like an important comedy to me, and there's literally no loss.
32, you said?
Yeah. Aaron?
Aaron?
I started counting. I looked away. Sorry, 14, 19,
like, major in accounting,
25.
dude?
Yeah.
I don't.
Is
We use
an accountant, or it
calculators.
was. Yeah, that's true.
It's 32.
32. Me and Aaron,
32.
And then what about Holmes and Watson, Nick?
My rating was an 11.
Okay. Aaron?
Solid 13, baby.
9 for me. So
Nice.
this is
Wow,
gonna be,
dude,
that's
that's
the lowest I've
really
given
bad.
anything. Yeah.
So then
that's
that
worse than
means-
Suicide
Same,
Squad.
dude. That's the lowest I've given
Yeah.
something.
Well, that's true. Thank you,
Wow,
Aaron.
Look at that, man.
So what is that out of?
So that's a 93 for Step
Step
Brothers
Brothers.
and 33 for
Same, but
and
different.
that's
Holmes
out
and
of
Watson.
135. Oh,
No, 105.
oh, 105. 135. I'm an idiot. Oh wow, a 33 out of 105 is
Yeah,
really,
that's really bad.
Congratulations.
if
Holmes
you're
and
playing
Watson.
baseball, though, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
decent average.
Yeah, you're a
All right.
hitter.
Yeah, you're
Now
a
we're gonna
hitter.
get into the accolades section.
Accolades.
Before we get into MVP and all that, I have a question that I'm going to reserve for comedies from now on, and I got this kind of question from the show The Rewatchables by The Ringer.
Okay.
Would either of these comedies be better with Justin Long in it?
No.
No.
I think Holmes and Watson would be so much better with
Okay,
Justin
Holmes
Long
and
in it.
Watson maybe, but Holmes and Watson would be better if
Zach
Almost
he's so
anyone.
funny in Zach and Miri Make a Porno and in Strange
But
Wilderness.
what would his role be?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Would it be better?
Is that Billy Zane?
Yeah. Yeah.
That saved the movie.
Yeah, Billy
that-
Zane did save
Is
it.
that
Okay.
Justin Long?
I have another question, special question. Does Enterprise have a great corporate structure? Luis and Kate, please let us know if they gave you the tools to be your own boss. All right, now
Oh, there's
this will
an
be
in
kind
joke.
of fun. Let's do top 5 in order. Each of us do it. Top 5 favorite Will Ferrell movies, and they have to be predominantly Will Ferrell movies. Like, he has to be a major force in it. So
Okay.
we could talk about what that means. Like, for me, I wouldn't include Zoolander, even though Mugatu is a big character, just because he doesn't have enough screen time to really be like, the movie's not about Mugatu.
Sure.
Whereas something like Old
about
School
Zoolander.
could count because he's the third lead. Like, he's one of the main characters of Old School. That's in my mind. Do whatever
Okay.
you want with it.
Okay. So who do you want to start? I'll let you be
Aaron.
the omnipotent.
Ooh, me?
Master
Oh, okay.
here.
You guys
Okay,
are not
Aaron,
gonna
go.
like me.
I am supreme leader.
Number one. Ooh, should I go should we go one?
Oh, throwback to the last episode.
1 to 5 or
Yeah.
5 to? Well, wouldn't it be the
Ooh, what-
episode
what's
before
you-
technically?
Do
at this
5 to
point?
1.
5 to 1.
5 to 1.
That's
All right.
fun. So much suspense.
Fifth one is Elf.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Great
me too.
movie. Phenomenal movie.
Nice.
Number 4 is Talladega Nights.
Okay.
Gabe and I did not cheat. Number 3 is The Other Guys.
Okay.
Okay.
2 is Anchorman. Number 1 is Step Brothers. That is
nice.
my
We have
list.
almost the exact same
What is
five.
your
I
list?
except
did
for our
leave.
three
I
is
think I
different.
know what you switched
Really?
out for
Mine
the 3.
is Elf at 5, Talladega Nights at 4, Old School at
Yep.
3, Anchorman at 2, and Step Brothers at 1.
I thought you guys were gonna hate me on
So
this.
mine
list.
goes. My 5 is Blades of Glory.
Nice.
My 4 is Anchorman. My 3 is Talladega Nights. My 2 is Old School, and my 1 is Step Brothers.
Not The Other Guys for either of you?
Interesting. No, so my
My other guys would be 6 for me, and Elf would be 7.
Okay.
Yeah, I
okay.
had honorary mentions. I had Blades of Glory, Night at the Roxbury, and the other guys.
See, I thought about Night at the Roxbury, but
It's
it's
so
such
funny.
a bad movie, though. Like, ultimately,
It's bad as a movie for sure.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we were doing this on some kind of
But he's
scale,
so
it'd be
good.
bad. But honestly, he's so funny. When he, in the opening scene, when he breaks a window, he's like, oh, Dad's going to be pissed.
my brother and I have actually pulled off that. Are you guys brothers? No. Yeah. And
it's
people
so
never
good.
talk to us again.
That's such a Harrington
probably
Bros
not.
thing
yeah,
to do.
it didn't work.
Okay, who is your MVP of both of these movies?
Oof. Who's yours, Aaron?
John C. Reilly. I love Will Ferrell.
Wow.
Because I thought John C. Reilly actually carried Holmes and Watson. If I'm comparing the two,
Yeah. No, I
think-
he'd
I
be
didn't find him funny
He's
at
my
all.
MVP too.
I think he carried Holmes and Watson. But if I'm going, because
I
him and
strongly
Will
disagree.
That's fair. Him and Will Ferrell together in Step Brothers are basically equal in my opinion because
I
they're
would agree.
so funny
No.
together. They each have their individually funny parts. Holmes and Watson, it's kind of the same, but Will Ferrell's almost too flamboyant, too over the top a little bit, which I think that was the purpose of it,
Yeah,
where he's supposed to
that's
be
right.
arrogant and everything like that. But Watson just made it watchable, in my opinion. And I'm like the biggest Will Ferrell fan, and I did not pick him, which surprised me.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
I would
Right.
100% agree with Aaron, and I defer any further comment on this category to Gabe.
Okay, I love John C. Reilly in both of these. And I think that he tries too hard, and that is only because he's a drama actor and he has to
In
I'm
both
sure
of them?
he's funny. Yeah, I honestly think that a lot of the lines I think the lines are funnier for him in Step Brothers, but I don't really necessarily think that his delivery makes them that much funnier. Whereas Will Ferrell, the whole dinner scene, I literally laugh when he's not saying anything. It's just his face. His face is so incredibly funny. When he's at the wedding at the beginning and his aunt or whatever is touching the back of his
That's
head
super funny.
and he's shaking it off, it's like the physical humor of Will Ferrell does that. But neither of them are my MVP, by the way. I love John C. Reilly in it. I just think that Will Ferrell
wait,
is
neither of them are your
naturally funnier.
MVP?
No, I think
Oh,
it's Adam
curveball.
McKay. I really... I normally go with director and writer, Nick, for our past episodes. I've always
Yes,
done that.
yeah.
I think that's the biggest difference.
You tend to go very macro with
But I
these.
think that for this is the easiest way to tell between the two movies. Because obviously John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell are funny. We know that. And their supporting cast is funny. But the two funny movies with them are Talladega Nights and Step Brothers.
Yep.
They're made by Adam McKay. And guess what? When they're not on screen, like the Derek sequence, which is hilarious, especially since he goes into traffic, it's Adam McKay. Adam McKay wrote in a hilarious story. And it's actually kind of crazy to see where his career's gone since then. I mean, Nick and I are obsessed with the show Succession. That's his baby.
Yeah.
Vice was great.
So
Big
funny.
Short was great. I think that he is a mastermind of comedy, and there's a reason why him and Will Ferrell made Funny or Die together.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my MVP for it.
We do an LVP?
LVP. What is your LVP?
Jeez. I mean, my LVP is the entirety of Holmes and Watson because it is a massive pile of white dog crap.
Lauren Lapkus.
Who's
Lauren
that?
Lapkus is definitely an LVP.
Yeah.
I don't know what the heck they were thinking with that character or that.
Wait, who dat?
That's the one that acts like a cat for most of Holmes and
that was
Watson.
bad.
Like,
That was not
geez,
good.
dude. Come on.
It just didn't even
I
make it
actually-
that funny at the end when
mean,
she was
what?
like, yeah.
See, I think it's the maid in Holmes v. Watson.
Oh, Kelly MacDonald?
You mean the eventual antagonist?
Yeah.
I actually kind of respect her effort in that movie.
Well, effort, yeah,
She's
but I
so
think it's just
Irish.
the role.
Oh, yeah, maybe the
It's not
character
her
is
as
the
an
worst,
individual.
yeah.
It's more the role.
That's a good point.
Because I mean, she does it well, but it's just kind of like unnecessary. Like when they're just yelling at her nonstop, and she's just like right in the room next door.
Fire!
Yeah, he's so carried up.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's like maybe
We
it's
yelled
even
fire.
like the director or writer, like Ethan Coen, because like he'd worked on good movies. Tropic Thunder is a great movie. There was another one like I Get Hard is not one of my favorite Will Ferrell movies, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because he worked on this himself. I didn't like the idea of them having the accents. It kind of didn't work for me.
No.
I think honestly, if they wanted to make a British funny movie, even like trying to make it like Americans making fun of British people, they should have hired Ricky Gervais or Stephen Merchant
Yeah.
to work on it, because I think
Sure.
that they would get that humor, or
Get the
someone
British
from
humor down, yeah.
Monty
Yeah.
Python.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Monty.
Yeah,
Or
like
Python?
Monty or Python. Yeah.
Stupid joke. So dumb.
Do we have any lasting
it.
thoughts before we get into recommendations?
Lasting thoughts?
Yeah.
No, my brain's pretty much numb from watching Holmes and Watson for a second time. So,
Yeah, it's pretty
You know,
tough.
We're
gonna have a
say
good night, too.
whoever has not watched Step Brothers recently, do yourself a favor and just watch it again.
Yeah, what
watch
is
that
wrong with you?
baby.
Just watch it
So
again.
funny.
It's so good.
I
Yeah.
don't understand how you can not like that.
And
movie.
make sure you're
I
looking
love
out for
that it was
cinnamon.
all three of our favorite Will Ferrell movies.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
easily, yeah.
Yeah.
That's because you
And
guys are
I've seen
fucking my best
Anchorman
friends.
That's
like
because we're boys.
27 times or something ridiculous and know like 90% of the quotes.
It's-
And Step Brothers is better.
There's something about Step Brothers that's funnier, but Anchorman has like such a great.
Anchorman just has more pieces to it. We're not into that, though.
Yeah. Do you guys have any recommendations that are similar to these movies that you think that people haven't watched and they should watch?
I have one that they shouldn't watch. The Talladega Nights extended version. Do not do that.
Dude, I'm out on like Step Brothers is the one exception.
Yep.
I'm out on unrated editions of movies.
It's
I think that
not
they're always
good.
not funny.
The
and
Talladega
it's clear,
Nights one is so incredibly bad. So don't do that. That's my unrec.
You know, I
Do you have any
actually,
recommendations?
I would say don't watch Anchorman for a while and give yourself 3 years before you
helps.
rewatch it again.
Yeah.
Another unrec.
Yeah.
Gabe?
I have a couple recommendations.
Okay.
You want to do another? Oh, no, you didn't.
No. I mean, like, we got 2 unrecs. You give the recs.
If you like a movie about someone with like Arrested Development with like mommy issues or whatever, the movie Cyrus with John C. Reilly and Jonah Hill and I think Catherine Keener. No, Marissa Tomei.
It's Marissa Tomei, yeah.
Is funny and it's kind of dark. Like
It
it's
is.
creepy.
It's almost more of a... It's almost a
Thriller.
drama thriller.
yeah, but it's funny. Jonah Hill is so
I just
funny in
rewatched
it.
that recently. It's funny you'd say that.
It's really
Julie
good.
wasn't... She thought it would be like very much like a Step Brothers kind of comedy, and it very much is not.
I haven't
that.
watched it in a while, to be fair. I also think, like, so if you think, I normally hate kid actors. Actually, all the kid actors in Step Brothers are so good. But Nick and I both
good.
really liked Good Boys from this year.
Yes,
movie by
dude.
Seth Rogen
Aaron,
with,
have
like,
you seen
David
that?
I haven't seen it.
Oh,
no.
dude,
Aaron,
you'd
you
love
will die of
You would
laughter
love
at this
it.
movie.
I
It's so funny.
don't really want to die yet.
Oh, yeah. I don't want you to die either.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you
But if
for
there's a
coming
way
on.
to go, it's
That's the
laughing.
way.
So, Aaron, we're going to have you on for more episodes in the future.
I made the cut?
Yeah, you're
I
our
made the
best
cut.
bud, and you're a fun guy. This was a good time. Do you want anybody to follow you on social media?
No, actually.
Okay,
I
fair enough.
try to
Stay
stay
away.
away. Yeah. But if you want to, Team Aaron. you know.
Yeah, if you guys
Don't
want to
know my
send
handle.
us hate mail about Aaron, you could send us email to facingoffpodcast@gmail.com.
And it's for all of you out there who know me, I am growing facial hair, so just throw in the gnarliest things you think it looks like, because it's not good.
It looks bad. It looks like I shaved off someone else's pubes and put them on Aaron's face.
Yeah, and I tried to
I did
add
a
a couple of
patchy
my
job
own.
at it.
Yeah, I tried to add a couple of my own.
Yeah, but yeah, send us an email with your scores and send us an email with your favorite Will Ferrell movies in case we missed some by some reason. That's facingoffpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us also on Instagram if you're not following us yet. That is Instagram.com/facingoffpod. And then you can find us on Twitter @facingoffpod. Hey, by the way, happy Thanksgiving to you all. I hope you really enjoy this episode. We certainly had a super fun time. You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and give us a rate and a review on Apple. It really means a lot to us. Kosher Boy Aron gave us a really nice review, and we respect that.
Kosher Boy.
And we'll give you a shout out. Next week, we are doing A Quiet Place versus Bird Box. This is the second time we've said that, but I will announce this on Instagram. We are definitely releasing it next week, and it's a great episode. We recorded it right before. Nick, do you have a send-off?
I do, but Aaron, you go first.
Goodbye.
That's it?
That's all. Thanks for having me, guys. Honestly, it was super fun.
Appreciate
Had a
It
good
was
time.
great to do this with you.
Send
man.
off, Nick.
Gabe, you go first.
John Bonham's playing Moby Dick for real!
My send-off is Gabe, Aaron. I thought you were both incredibly brave, and I mean that in strictly the most clinical and professional sense possible, with no emotional, intimate, sexual, or any other undertones that you could possibly infer.
You're a keeper.